So imagine with me, if you will, you have paid tens of thousands of dollars on a 3-year long cruise with a company that virtually nobody has heard of, at least from a public perspective. You've also sold your home to potentially finance said cruise, or at the bare minimum, leased out your home to tenants. That way you aren't just throwing money away at an empty home that you were not paying for. Understandable. You then fly over to the port city in which you're supposed to sail out of. However, unbeknownst to you, there is no cruise ship for you to get on to sail away on this magical 3-year adventure. Now, not only are you stranded in that port city, you also are technically homeless because you have sold your home. Well, unfortunately for some poor devils, this is exactly the case with a cruise that they were supposed to set sail on. This story here is not only a cautionary tale, it's probably one of the biggest stories thus far here in 2023. Well, I wouldn't even say so far, the year is almost over. However, this also highlights exactly why reputation, credibility, and testimonials are very important, especially when it comes to the cruise ship industry. The company in question that potentially caused this conundrum is known as Life at Sea Cruises. It's owned by a man named Vedat Ugurlu. I'm probably butchering the heck out of that name, but you get the idea. He also owns a subsidiary known as Murray Cruises. However, upon my research, I do have to admit that finding any consistent and potentially accurate information about any of these items was somewhat difficult. Initially, Life at Sea Cruises would be advertising and promoting a 3-year long cruise starting on November 1st, 2023 out of East Temple, Turkey on board the MV Laura cruise ship. Naturally, people would find this idea attractive because they would compare their cost of living at home versus living on the cruise ship with all the prices, and they found it similar. So people sold their homes, some rented their homes, and they booked the cruise. Many passengers excited for their 3-year long getaway would fly over to East Temple early for anticipation of their new adventure. However, when it came to the company, weeks prior to the cruise taking place, they would go silent, and this is where things would get bad. Very bad. At first, the Life at Sea cruise would be delayed from November 1st to the 11th. This does happen occasionally when it comes to cruises, not a big deal. However, the launch location in which the ship would be initially sailing out of would also change from East Temple, Turkey to Amsterdam over in the Netherlands. The date would then change again to November 30th. However, we'd never make it there. As of November 17th, there would be a complete cancellation of the cruise. In a shocking turn of events, it would turn out, in fact, that Life at Sea Cruises didn't have a cruise ship at all to take this 3-year long cruise with. They were supposed to buy the Aida Aura. This is a 2-decade-old cruise ship launched in 2003, owned by the Carnival Corporation's German line Aida. The plan was relatively straightforward. Life at Sea Cruises would take ownership of the Aida Aura in September, put it into dry dock, renovate it with all the fixings, rename it to the MV Laura, and sail on the 3-year cruise. However, things would unfortunately go south. Life at Sea Cruises would hit a little snag when trying to purchase the Aida Aura. 6 weeks after the initial purchasing date in September, they would realize that they had some trouble finding investors to purchase the rest of the ship. They had initially put a down payment on the Aida Aura and hoped investors would come in and pay for the rest of the cruise. However, trying to search out investors would drag on and drag on and drag on all the way until November, until a line that almost went bankrupt, Celestial Cruises, would buy the Aida Aura on November 16th. This would be the day prior to the cancellation of the 3-year long cruise. Life at Sea Cruises did recently announce that they will be issuing refunds to the passengers that unfortunately had their cruise canceled, but unfortunately there'd be a small delay as they wouldn't start issuing refunds until around mid-December of 2023. There is also the caveat that they're going to do it in installments. The passengers won't get their full refund back to them until around February of 2024. The company will also pay for the hotels of all the passengers that are stranded in East Temple and wherever else that they are, as well as their flights home. Do keep in mind, I say fly home very lightly, as a lot of these passengers don't even have a home to go back to. We recently even had the CEO, Kendra Holmes, of Life at Sea Cruises that resigned prior to the cancellation. However, she is planning, in her words, to go to another company where they can get this 3-year cruise off the ground and set sailing. Now, before we get into, I guess, the lesson learned from this atrocity, this mayhem that's taken place, I do want to say Life at Sea Cruises did have somewhat of a backup plan to avoid all this from happening. Well, their backup plan was their first plan. They were going to use a ship within their subsidiary Murray Cruises known as the MV Gemini. However, it's an older ship launched in 1992. That's when I was born, and well, it was too small for the consumers, the passengers on board, to truly enjoy. At least this is what the company thought. So this is how all this ended up crumbling down. So I will make this very quick as I sign out here. First of all, shame on Life fantasy cruises, they without a doubt dropped the ball on this 100%. They even found a way to swindle all of their passengers into basically giving them a 3 to 4 month loan. That's the money that the passengers paid to get on the cruise to pay them back. And since there's no ship, you got to wonder what the operating costs are. I'm assuming there's employees that are behind the scenes working the computers and all that stuff. Nevertheless, it's definitely wrong. And to all the passengers, yes, I feel bad for you. You've either sold your home or you don't have somewhere to go back to. So now you're probably going to stay in a Motel 6. But nevertheless, if you are going to take a 3 year long cruise or any long cruise, or I would argue any cruise for that matter, you should make sure the company that you are giving money to is reputable. This, in my opinion, is more so like the extreme deep end of taking an inaugural cruise. We all know if you go on an inaugural cruise or the first sailing for any particular cruise ship, regardless of the line or ship that's actually sailing, you are more or less a guinea pig, a test subject, if you will. Should the ship suffer some propulsion issues or issues with the food or a show canceled or not being ready yet, you just kind of take it for what it is. However, when you look at something like this versus taking an inaugural cruise, you are more so sailing with a legacy line that has credibility, that has a reputation, that has had and owned and operated 20 plus cruise ships, whether it be past or present. And well, when you have this line that, in my opinion, like I said, I haven't really heard of this line. I know a lot of people haven't, and you jump on a deal that is potentially too good to be true, or in comparison with you living at home, well, there is the potential for some concern, and you should probably look into the finer details before you make a decision like selling your home and planning to leave on a cruise ship that you don't know much about for 3 years. Whew, I'm all hot and bothered on that little rant. Anywho, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section below. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as usual, I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.